Alright then, so I'd like to show you one last thing inside this first chapter, Vue Basics, before we move on, and that is the whole concept of looping through data. Now, to do this, we'll be using a new directive called v4, which lets us loop through some kind of collection of data, such as an array, and then output a bit of HTML for each item inside that array. Now, to best explain this, again, I think it's best we just jump right into a couple of examples. But first of all, we need to define some data that we can loop through inside our data property right here. So let's create a new property called items and set this equal to an array. Now, inside here, I'm just going to do a collection of strings. And the second one will be green shells. The third one is red shells. And by the way, bonus points if you understand the reference here, where this comes from. Banana, and then finally we'll do a star. Okay, so now we have a collection of 5 items here, right? So if we save this now, what I'd like to do is cycle through each one of these items inside our template and then output a bit of HTML for each different item and display that item on the screen. So this is very, very easy to do in Vue.js. First of all, how do I want to output these items? Well, I think it's best I do it inside a UL. Now, for each item, I'd like to output an li tag. So let's create that li tag first of all. And then what we need to do is use the directive called v4, so v-4. And what we do is set that equal to some kind of collection. So we'll say for item in items. Okay, so this thing here, items, is a reference to this data property. They have to be called the same. This is what we're cycling through, right? And this right here, I've given a name of item because it's singular. So for each item in items. But this could be called I if you want, or P if you so desire. I think items makes sense. Okay, so I'm saying right now for each item in items, I want to output an li tag. So now this is going to output 5 times because there's 5 items, right? We're cycling through each item in that array. Now, what I'd like to do each time around is output that individual item. So I can say item right here, which is this thing. Remember, I referenced each individual item inside this array as item. So as it cycles through each one, we have access to that individual item right here. So we can output it to the screen. So let's save this and check it out in a browser. And now we can see each of those items is output as an li tag. And I can show you that. We can inspect and we can see 5 li tags right here. So that was very, very easy to take our data right here, items, and cycle through them using v4. Very simple indeed. Okay, let's take this one step further. I want to show you how to do a little bit more with v4. So this time what I'd like to do is create an array over here of ninjas. So we'll say ninjas and set that equal to an array again. Now, instead of just displaying strings inside this array, what I'd like to do is instead create an object for each individual ninja. So the first object will have a name property. So we'll call this ninja Crystal. The second property is going to be age, so 25. And the third property is going to be the belt color, which in this case is going to be black. So Crystal is 25 years old and a black belt. All right, so let me just copy this and paste it down below a couple of times because we want about 3 ninjas in total. We'll just change the second name to Ryu, the age to 30, and the belt color to brown. All right, the third one we'll change to Ken, and the age is going to be 35, and the color of the belt we'll just put at orange. Okay, so now we have this ninjas array as well. We need to put our commas after each individual item. And now we have 3 ninjas inside it. So what I'd like to do is cycle through each one of these individual ninjas and then get information from that ninja and output it to the screen. So let's save this. And I'd like to go underneath this UL. And I'd like to now cycle through these ninjas. Now, this time I'm not going to use li tags. What I'll do is just use a div tag. So we'll say div, and then we'll say v-4 because for each ninja, I'd like to output this div tag. So we'll set this equal to ninja in ninjas. Remember, this thing has to be the same name as the data that we're cycling through, ninjas. But this can be whatever you want. I've called it ninja again because it's singular of ninjas. And each time around we get access to that single ninja. Just makes sense. So what I'd like to do now is output a p tag, which is going to be the ninja name. So again, I can access that individual ninja from inside the div. So I can say ninja and then dot name because we have a dot name property on it. All right, so let's close off our curly braces. Underneath, we'll do another p tag and we'll do the age. So we'll say age is, and then ninja.age. And then underneath that, a final p tag, and we'll do the belt color. So we'll say belt color, and that's going to be equal to ninja.belt. All right then, so if we save that now and view this in a browser, we should see that for each ninja, we have the name, the age, and the belt color. And we can see that for each of the three ninjas, Crystal, Ryu, and Ken. So awesome. Now we're cycling through these more complex objects and outputting data for each object. Now, I'd also like to show you one last thing. What we can also do is include the index of each item inside this thing right here. So let me explain this by doing it. I'm going to surround ninja in parentheses right here. Now, if we do that, what we can also do is pass in a second variable called index or I or ind. I'm just going to call it index. And that refers to the position in the array that this item is. So is it position 0, 1, 2? So it's the index of the item. Okay. Then we have access to this index as well down here inside this bit. So let me just output this index right here. What I'll do is just say index like so, and then a hyphen, and then the ninja name. So if I save now, we can see that Crystal has an index of 0, Ryu has an index of 1, and Ken 2. All right. So there we go, my friends. That is V4 in a nutshell, and we will be using this as we go through this series to cycle through data that we might get. For example, if we reach into a database and get a list of comments for a certain user, we can cycle through those comments using V4 and output different HTML for each comment. All right then, so now we know the basics of Vue.js. I hope by now you're beginning to see Vue.js and realize its potential and how much it can do for us when creating web applications. So in the very next section, what we'll be doing is taking this one step further and looking at the Vue CLI to create fully blown Vue.js projects.